honored to introduce our newest Gray Fellow today, Sean Barnhill, who comes to us from Springfield, Missouri, and I'm going to ask him to fill in lots of the gaps. He interned at Network as well, so at NBC. So, Sean, take it away.
Okay, great, guys. Well, first of all, thank you for having me. Thank you for being here. Lots of students, which is amazing. My name's Sean. I'm from the NBC and ABC station in Springfield, Missouri, about 10 hours north of here. So it's a pretty long drive. I flew, luckily, which was nice. Anyway, so my contact information's on the board. I saw somebody taking a picture of the slideshow. If you guys like to do that as well, just to have my contact information in case you need it for any reason, any questions whatsoever. So it's up. If you want to take a picture of it, write my name down. I'll tell you guys all this information after the presentation as well. A little background about myself real quick. I went to the Drury University in Springfield. It's a private, small university just like this one. I interned at CNBC and the Today Show back in 2014 and 15. So if any of you guys, especially sophomores and juniors, have any aspirations to intern at the network, you can always contact me about that too, and I'll get you in touch with the right people. And currently, as I said, I'm employed by our NBC and ABC stations in Springfield, KY3, KSPR. We are a duopoly, which means we are the same station. So we have two stations under one roof, and we actually simulcast our newscast as well. So if you don't know where Springfield is, which many of you probably don't, many people I've heard from today say they know where St. Louis or Kansas City is, but not Springfield. So it's right there, just, I don't know, probably an hour north of the Arkansas border. So it's not too terribly far in terms of travel, I guess. You could drive there in a day. So anyway, that's the general vicinity where I live. If you guys know of Branson, Missouri, that's a big tourist town in Missouri. It's actually where, unfortunately, the duck boat sank last year. That was big news all across the country, world even. BBC was calling us, and we covered that pretty extensively. So anyway, just a reference point right there. These are some photos from my station. I just took these on Friday, actually, so pretty fresh. These are our two anchors. They didn't know why I was taking photos, so they were questioning why I was doing it, and then I told them. So we have two main anchors. This is Ethan and Lisa. They anchor our 6 o'clock and 10 o'clock newscast, which I produce. So this is our studio. Our cameras are somewhat like yours. Not quite. We don't have the teleprompter actually mounted like on the lens. And as you'll see right here, it is actually below the lens on a screen. So when they read the prompter, they're actually looking down, which you can't tell on air. But it's a little interesting. This is the way things are going and headed in terms of automation as well. And these cameras we operate from our control room. Nobody actually mans these cameras like you guys do here. It's all automated. These are robots. We have a special program in our control room that allows us to put in codes and commands to, for close-up shots, for monitor shots, for touchscreen hits. And they move based on the codes, which is kind of interesting. So this is our control room. Pretty standard with automation. We have about 4 TV screens. That is where our video previews are, as well as our programming, which we can tell what's on air and what's to come, programming and preview. Producer sits right there where that empty chair is. The director sits on the other side. And then back here is where the director sits when we're off the newscast to code the shows and to basically look them over so they know what they're doing when it comes to show production. So it's interesting. If you guys ever get the chance to look at an automated station or tour one, tour an automated station versus a station that still has directors and studio ops, your mind will be blown. So like today I was at Fox 8, they are a gray station, which owns now 150 stations across the US, and we are not alike in terms of that. So it's really interesting to see that stations are still like that, because that's not what it's going to be in the next few years. Or stations are going to be automated. They're going toward that. So something to keep in mind as you continue on with your career. So as I said, I'm with Gray TV. We just acquired Raycom, which made us now the third biggest TV company in the US, right behind Sinclair and Nexstar. So we have stations all across the US, and something that the news director over at Fox 8 wanted me to stress to you guys is that there are so many local stations around here, or regional areas, where we have stations. We have them in Jackson, we have them in Lake Charles, we have them in Baton Rouge. So you guys don't even really have to travel far to New Orleans if you want a job. So if you want to be a producer or a reporter, in some cases, usually you have to start out at small markets. So if you wanted to eventually work in New Orleans, let's say at Fox 8, then you could go to a smaller market, which is Lake Charles or Baton Rouge, and work there for a couple years, then move right up here to New Orleans again. So lots of different stations, and we're always hiring for producers. So keep that in mind. Just out of curiosity, how many know that you are going to be a producer for sure? Like, nobody? There has to be a few people. Producer? Okay, even thinking about it, raise your hand. Okay. Being a producer, I will say, is the fast track to management. If you want to be an executive producer or news director in the future, you need to be a producer, because that teaches you leadership skills. So being a producer, you're in charge, as you know, of the entire newscast. You are in charge of your reporters, anchors, making sure things go as smoothly as possible, because you are the backbone to the newscast. The anchors and reporters may be the face of it, but you are the backbone to that, which is just as important, because you are the one who's structuring the newscast and making sure that all the stories are lined up correctly. That way you won't lose viewers, and I'll talk about that coming up. So today's topic is breaking down and unbundling content. So we have 4 main points here for you guys. We have the biggest one and most important is laying out the rundown. You do that every single day as a producer. You guys do it here. Number 2, looking for connections in stories, on how to stack them and order your stories in your lineup. 3rd, letting your newscast breathe. This is really important. I'll give an example. The Today Show, they don't let content breathe. As you can see, they stack their show so heavy where they have to cut things short. You know, Kathy Lee and Hoda especially, they have to wrap up their guests, you know, on a cooking segment when the cooking host can't even get through the first or second recipe, because they don't let the newscast breathe. So that's a key point that we're going to hit. And then number 4 is using technology to enhance the story, which is also really important, because you need to engage with your viewers. That's the most important thing, and we'll talk about that. So first of all, laying out the rundown. If you guys want to take notes, by all means. If you have any questions in the middle of it, raise your hand and I'll answer them as well. So laying out the story like a rundown, you guys have produced newscasts here with Maroon Minute, along with some other newscasts. You may see, and I don't know if you guys have done this, but headlines in your newscast. I know a lot of stations here do it. In fact, Fox 8 this morning had headlines teasing 3 stories ahead of the newscast. And I put optional in quotes and little brackets there, because we don't do that at KY3. In fact, we don't like doing headlines because we feel it slows down the pace of the newscast, and we want to get right to the main story so we don't lose viewers. You have a beginning, middle, end with the newscast as well, as you all know. So the beginning would be, you know, the very first story, your A block, middle would be weather, ending with sports. So it's pretty much, all newscasts are pretty much outlined that way, in terms of, you know, news at the beginning, weather in the middle, sports at the end, along with the kickery segment, which is your fun stories. So you want to lead with a story that is most impactful to your viewers. You know, what's the best video? What's the best sound that you have. You could also incorporate that in a cold open, if you guys know what that is. It is where you lead or open the newscast with a SOT and then trail it with VO and then go right to the story, go to a 2-shot right after that, and then go to the story. Just to grab people's attention. That is the crucial part in news. I don't know if you guys have talked about rating systems yet or not, but we in Springfield are a metered market, which means every single second counts, including commercial breaks. So with Nielsen, only the first few minutes, would count, or the first few segments. With metered markets, every single second counts. So it doesn't matter. So if your A block has, let's say 100,000 viewers, but your B block only has 50,000 viewers, they're going to average those two together. It doesn't matter. So, you always have to keep in mind your viewers and how do you grab them and have them stick around. Newscast is marketing. That's basically what it is. You're marketing stories to people, and people like interesting stories. So you don't want to clump all your interesting stories together in one block. You want to separate them so people stick around, and you can tease those into the story. Also, the story you start with says a lot about your news judgment. So we are the dominant #1 station in Springfield for this reason. The other competitor we have is they don't have good judgment, and people notice that. So they always lead with weather, regardless of even if there's a big mass shooting or whatever. They always lead with weather. They have a rundown, which we think is a terrible idea because your newscast always starts out the same. It always, people know what to expect. You don't want people to know, what you're doing. You want to surprise them, so they come back and stick around with you. Okay, so I'm going to exit out of this real quick, and I'm going to show you the rundown we use. It is called EMPS, which is similar to the one that you guys use. This is actually a newscast I produced on Friday, so right before coming here. We had snow, we had ice. It was a big, crazy news day. Usually a lot of weather happens in Missouri. Tornadoes, ice, all of that. So this is what we use. So EMPS, we have the open, the show open. Then we have the intro, which, again, want to grab viewers' attention. And here, I actually combined several VOs for headlines, or what would be called headlines, for the intro. We had several major wrecks. We had several, slide-offs as well. And then I also had a live tower camera look to see what the streets, what's happening now. What are they doing now? So I want to play this for you guys and show you what I'm talking about. Hopefully this audio will work. Here we go.
A warning for MoDOT and the Highway Patrol to stay off the roads across many parts of Missouri. Snow and paralyzing ice, hundreds of crashes, including this one near Fordland. At least 2 semis flipped over on Highway 60. One of them carrying milk, which spilled out onto the pavement.
About 50 people were stranded in numerous slide-offs there on Highway 54. What a mess. That's between Eugene and...
I'm going to stop it here because this is probably the best picture we got all day. This was a happening now scene. This video literally came in probably 5 minutes before the newscast. So even though the picture was the most interesting element, I still led with this crash because it was the most recent thing that happened. And so we'll go back to this. So as you can see that 50 people are stranded on a road. This was technically not in our viewing area. This was a little bit outside of our viewing area, which is why we did not put a reporter on it. But we still got incredible photos of it. And people see that, they're like, oh, what's coming up next? This is a newscast that I want to stick around and watch because it's interesting. You see that? Who's not going to want to watch a newscast with all of this going on? Yeah.
I have a question about the word 100. At what point are you going to use the word 100 to describe that side
Oh, sorry. Yeah, hundreds of crosses across. Yeah, so the Missouri Highway Patrol reported that there were 500 crashes across the state from this. Yeah, so hundreds. Yeah, 500. So yeah. Yeah, so this is a viewer submitted photo that we got in. And that's what's great about working for a dominant station is people send us crap all the time. But yeah, so I'll play the rest of this.
That's between Eugene and Eldon in Miller County, which most of the wrecks have been cleaned up since then.
And near Kansas City, a 15-vehicle pileup killed at least one person and shut down a stretch of Interstate 70 near Concordia. You can see several semis involved in that terrible crash.
The snow and ice also affecting drivers on Interstate 44. This is a live look of the slippery interstate near Waynesville from a Highway Department traffic camera.
We have team coverage of this latest round of wintry weather. Taylor Frost and meteorologist Matt Jones will join us in a moment with a look at road conditions.
So again, I say we never do headlines, but in that case, I kind of did just because we had interesting video to showcase. And then I went out to a split box, or a quad box is what we call them, with the anchors in one, 2 reporters and the other 2, and then the snow forecast or the weather graphics in the 4th one. So to lead a newscast, if you have a big breaking event like this and you have team coverage, you want to showcase that. You want to make sure that you showcase that so people do know that you are on top of this and they want to stick around with you because you have all the bases covered. Yeah. A slow news day is tricky. So I will find things, my anchors will help me find things. The thing that works for us is that we also cover Arkansas. We have several Arkansas counties. So we cover 2 states. There's always politics. So if we are desperate for something, I can contact our Arkansas reporter and be like, hey, what do you have going on? I need this. So, but, you know, if it was just Missouri, that's a great question. I don't know what we would do or end up doing. But for instance, a couple days ago, or a couple weeks ago, I had 2 reporters whose stories didn't work out. And so I had to kill 2 reporter stories in my 6 o'clock newscast. So, and that's a 4-minute gap to fill 2 hours before the show. So that's when I talked to my night sider, who's phenomenal. Her name's Taylor Frost, the one on the top right of that screen right there. And she ended up doing a VOB for me. So you make it work. And if you don't, you know, it'll show obviously on air. So you want to make sure that viewers can't notice when you don't have news to report. So, yeah. We do. We have one in Harrison, Arkansas, which is a tiny town, 12,000 people, but she covers all of Northwest Arkansas. So if there's something big, she'll drive an hour to go cover it. But we're the only station that does that. So when you guys apply for jobs and start applying, you know, if you do want to be an MMJ, then most likely you will see positions that say bureau reporter, and that's what that is. You're not actually working at the station. You're working in a really small town on the outside, an hour or 2 away from the actual news station. So, which can be a challenge, really hard, just because you're in the middle of nowhere trying to find news. We have one reporter who is in West Plains, Missouri, which has 10,000 people, and it's really hard to find news in those rural areas, but he always does it. So, yeah, pretty much. We use Latitude. I don't know if you guys have heard of that, but it's a software that we use to transfer things, transfer video. So, and of course, Trump tweets again. So back to the rundown. I had the intro, and then I led with first forecast just because snow was still on the radar, and then went live to Taylor in Lebanon, and then pretty much the entire A block was weather, and then the B block was other news of the day. So if you have a really big news story like weather, like we did, we try to make it the entire A block, and then that way we can separate the weather from the other news of the day. which is nice. Luckily, in this case, we had enough content to do that. All right. So, keeping the audience, as we said, is the most important thing about a newscast. Again, with those metered markets that many of you will probably encounter if you go into producing. Your news directors will be very harsh on you if you don't keep the audience, because that reflects in the ratings. So you have to stack your stories accordingly. So as I said, make sure the audience has something that's unexpected. You know, if it's a really cool feature story in the B block, surprise them with that. If it's a great story like a feature, don't save all your good stuff for the A block. Put it in the B block. Even in some cases, the D block. And then deep tease it, which means tease it in the A block, and then say, hey, we'll have this coming up later. So, sorry, I just ate lunch, and yeah, exactly. So give people a reason to care, too. We are really big, at least Springfield is, on helping people who are in need. If it's somebody who got displaced by a fire, somebody who lost a family member in a wreck, somebody whose wife or husband is overseas serving the military. People like those emotional stories, and they want to find a way to help. So we do a lot of stories with nonprofit organizations because people like to help nonprofits in our area. And so you want to give people a reason to care. Tie in like, hey, how can you help? How can you make a difference in your community? Because who doesn't want to, you know? Everybody wants to help out in one way or another. So you really have to tie that in and, you know, let your viewers know how they can help and how they can, you know, make things better for their children in the future. That's really big. How does it affect you? How does it impact you? And, you know, keeping the audience, you have to keep it simple, you know? Cutting down scripts, making things, how would you talk to a friend? Talk to your audience like you're talking to a friend. I forget what station it was I was watching last night. I was browsing through all of them, but one of the anchors said, kept saying how it helps the public, how, I'm trying to think. Let's just go with that one. How it helps the public. Well, who's the public? You're the public. Say how it helps you. You know, you got to relate to the viewer. Like you would not say to your friend how it helps the public. You know, you would say how does it impact you. So you always want to make it conversational, which is our big thing, and that's why I think we connect with the viewers better than any station in town, is because we were trained to, communicate. Just like we're talking to a friend. Okay, so here's a little interesting activity. You guys don't have to write anything down, but just take a look at this. So I want you to tell me, and I want you guys to raise your hand after looking at this, what you would lead with, what your first story would be in the A block, the second story, and the third story. And how would you lay it all out? Would you use headlines? Would you use a cold open? Would you start with sound, VO, go straight to your reporter? How would you do it? The first one is a deadly shooting. So you have a compelling soundbite with a neighbor who knew the victim. It happened around an hour before your newscast, reporter live on scene. Number two, you have a building fire. It's happening now. Crews get called out. It's a big one. You have a reporter live on scene with that one as well. Third one, traffic concerns. You have a soundbite from a concerned homeowner who says people always speed past her home and police do nothing to help. So this is a straight package. These are all fictitious, by the way. They're not real. I just made them up. So looking at all that, which one would you guys lead with and why? Yeah. Yeah. How would you set up your story? How would you set up your A block? what would your open look like? Yeah. 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 Mm-hmm. I'm right with you. That's how I would stack it. So the building fire is not that yours was wrong by any means, but it's just how I would do it as well. The building fire is happening now, and that is the key word because it's very visual. It is very, it affects more people than a shooting does. Even back at home, this affects more people than a shooting does, unless it's some random guy who's going out and randomly shooting people. So the building fire would have great elements. It always grabs viewers like, oh, look, a fire. Where a shooting is just a shooting, as you said. And then traffic concerns, as you know, that affects a lot of people too, or several people in a neighborhood, but that's not big and breaking, so you could always tease that as well. What I would do personally is I would do a cold open or a tease on the top of the show of this deadly shooting, but first tonight, happening now, building fire on Main Street, blah, blah, blah. So that's what I would personally do because you have two big stories. So, but you're right, like tease one or the other and then lead with the one that you didn't tease. Okay. Now looking for connections, and I assume you guys do this too. All stories, as you know, will not be the same. It's, very unlikely that stories will be the same or even have the same topic. Some will, though, have a similar topic, if not the same, based on crime, health, consumer. Trying to think of other stories. So you really have, categorized stories like, and the 6 o'clock news, my B block is all consumer stories for the most part. So they may not all be the same, but they're all relatable, so I put them in that B block. If stories don't connect, don't force them to connect. I read a story about a reporter or a sports reporter who got fired because he tried to force like 2 stories to connect, and it ended up, coming out as a racial slur on air. So, yeah, this was several years ago. But so do not force stories to connect if they don't connect. There's no reason that every story has to connect. You can just be like, using a transition, using, a simple pause or a different anchor, reading the script. Those are all good enough. So you don't have to have, yeah.
Maybe it's gonna be more of a stories, how does
Yeah, so I connect story and the flow, I guess, and the pace is what this really translates to is, it doesn't have to be in a chronological order per se or an episodic tale, but you do have to, keep in mind, like the exercise we did, we have the fire, we have the shooting, which are both breaking news. Those are both involving like police on scene, firemen on scene, things like that. And then the traffic story, I would probably put that actually at the end of my A block and I could put all the other readers like the homicides, everything in there in between, like connecting to the fire, the shooting, all of that. So, yeah. 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 You do. Mm-hmm. Exactly. So I was watching Fox 8 this morning, or 10 o'clock last night, and they had the big shooting downtown, and then 3 other homicides back to back. And really, in my opinion, there's no way to get around that because you have all these crime-related stories, but you have to report them. You can't put one homicide in the A block and another homicide in the B block. It just doesn't work that way. So I don't know. Do you have a good? Do you have a good? I mean, are we pretty much on par with that? Like you always have to put the homicides and all of that together for the most part.
I mean, you know, to me,
Yeah.
you know, we wouldn't.
Yeah.
But
It is. We do. Have some good news in the A block. Yeah, people know other news is coming. It's not all gonna be crime. But even like we get ridiculed when we do fluffy stories. We're like, this isn't news. It's like, well, you have to have a balance. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, like think about it, like, as a victim, like for example, like if your family is the person who got killed, but then was not reported in the news, so you feel like you're left. So,
Yeah.
like, it's really hard not homicide, like victim standpoint. Like also like people friends with them will know what that.
Oh yeah.
News was. Like, I think it's important to report about that because it's important to people. And,
Yeah.
regardless.
Exactly. And our station motto is safety and security. Safety and security. So if it relates to, somebody gunning down somebody at random, then that is definitely relates to safety and security. And we had a consultant come in last week who said, you have to have that. What is your station going to base stories? How are you guys going to choose what stories to cover? And he said, well, what's your goal? And our goal is safety and security. That's what viewers want. And so not that we base all of our stories around that, but we do consider that whenever reporting stories, including crime. Car break-ins is big. Porch pirates are big. We do those all the time, and they always get huge hits. I don't know about here, but porch pirates? Yeah, porch. Somebody who comes, yep, package thieves. So, yeah. Yeah, it does, 100%. Exactly. Okay, another little exercise. This has two more than what you guys did earlier, but it also has different topics or different stories. So look at this, find connections. So you have the deadly fire, armed robbery, a popular restaurant closes, neighbors are upset by a new apartment complex going in next door, and then an incoming snowstorm. And even if these don't all connect, find a way to, stack these, which is more important to a viewer, and what's least important. Or, even if it comes to, and again, weather is big in our area, and I assume weather is huge here too. So I kind of gave that as a dead giveaway right there. But yeah. How close? I don't know, next 12 hours. So, yeah, let's say next 12 hours. Again, there are no wrong answers to this at all. I mean, nothing would be wrong about it. Yeah, about your answers. Mm-hmm. Anybody else? Would you beg to differ? Anybody else?
I'll try to use so cold open snowstorm. The restaurant and neighbors
Okay.
like have the restaurant or at the end of the A block.
Mhm.
The first.
Yeah. So here, even though the storm is 12 hours away, I would put that pretty high. So you could do stacking wise, deadly fire, snowstorm. This is how I would do it. So it can be, you guys can differ, have different opinions. Personally though, deadly fire happening now, incoming snowstorm, even though it's happening in 12 hours, people are, it's coming and people are concerned, what's going to happen. At least in Springfield, people are running to the store to get milk and bread even 2 days before a snowstorm. Yeah. Do that? Yeah, exactly. So even if the storm is 12 hours out, that's something I would put at the very top. And again, like tease it, do a cold open with incoming snowstorm, but first deadly fire. Let's get back to our weather after the fire, then armed robbery, neighbors upset, popular restaurant closes. So that's how I would stack it, personally. Yeah. Severe weather. Exactly, yeah. Anybody else have any? Yeah.
I have a question. So like, fire and snow is like, kind of opposite element. Like, is it okay to connect those things that like doesn't visually like contrast?
Contrast.
So like, I feel like after seeing a big fire, the hearing about snow is kind of a little bit about.
Yeah.
Is it all?
So I would do, like I said, you would tease the snowstorm saying, hey, we have a big snowstorm coming. We'll have more on that in just a moment. But first, breaking news out of Springfield. 1 person, 2 people, 3 people killed in a house fire. Let's get right to our reporter on scene and then back to the weather. So they don't relate really at all, but you can make that, connection by the importance. So the importance of the story too, which weather and deadly fire are the 2 most important stories we have. So, and again, as you said, armed robbery, nobody hurt, who cares? It may be a VO. In Springfield, it's a live shot. It's really strange, and it's kind of interesting to see how different markets operate. We're market 74, which means we are the 74th biggest TV market in the country. You guys are 50, so you're a little bit bigger than we are. And crime's not as, common in Springfield as it is here. So people are still kind of jarred by crime where I am. So even though if nobody's hurt, it's still something people are interested in. So. So let me show you. This is actually a story that I submitted last week for the Murrows. Our governor, Eric Greitens, resigned. Whoops.
KSBR News starts now.
This is not the end of our fight.
Where did it go?
It's in the VLC.
I will always
Colmar.
be a fighter for the people of Missouri.
Oh, that's right.
Missouri Governor Eric Greitens making the
Okay. This is what I'm talking about a cold open.
KYTV and KSBR News starts now.
This is not the end of our fight. I will always be a fighter for the people of Missouri.
Missouri Governor Eric Greitens making the shocking announcement today that he is resigning. The announcement comes after months of investigations into the governor's personal and political life that led to criminal charges and a special session to consider his impeachment. I'm Ethan Forheads.
I'm Lisa Rose. The governor's
That's a cold open. So You don't have to have a SOT at the beginning. You can just have VO coming straight out. But that's what it is. It's the anchor basically teasing the story that's coming up right now.
Resignation will take effect this Friday.
And then so come out to them on a 2-shot afterward.
Governor Mike Parson and Bolivar will take over as Missouri's chief executive. Andrew Hood-Rannick has been following.
And then a split box with the reporter. So. But yeah, that's what if you guys don't know, that's what I'm talking about at a cold open. And again, it doesn't have to have sound. It can easily have VO or pictures as well with that. So, all right. Okay, this one is really big, as I said at the beginning of our presentation. Letting the newscast breathe is imperative. It is crucial. You don't want the viewer to feel rushed. You don't want your anchors to feel rushed. Anchors are literally anchors of the show. That's why they call them anchors. They're the ones who keep the audience. A really bad anchor, regardless of how good your content is or how good of a producer you are, it doesn't matter. Anchors are going to drive your show more than anybody. So, again, you don't want to make them rushed. You don't want the anchors to rush through the scripts. You want to give them some time to breathe so they can ultimately connect with the audience. So anchors do like to talk very much, sometimes too much. So usually when I go into a newscast, I underproduce by 30 seconds with my 10 o'clock p.m. anchors because they are chatty. And as a result, I am okay with that. I'm okay with letting them speak and talk and connect with the audience. They do a really good job at that. So I will intentionally underproduce. The morning show, the 2 anchors, you overproduce by a minute because they read so fast and they don't connect, really. They don't ad-lib whatsoever. So it's crazy depending on who your anchors are. And when you get to your station, you'll just have to gauge that for yourself. But and also allow reporters to go heavy. If there's breaking news, like if it's really big, bad breaking news, I will cut into Jimmy Fallon. I don't care. Jimmy Fallon to me is not as important as big breaking news. So I will tell my master control operators, hey, I'm going to be heavy. Just cut into Jimmy Fallon, and we'll do another update on this breaking news. And a update or a example that I want to show you on that is this right here, because this was breaking news.
Tonight, and Francis,
Just want to give you a glance or a preview of what we did. We had a big warehouse explode that had fireworks inside, and our reporter was the first on the scene. She just got there. She was live. We did not want to wrap her because we wanted to get all the information in, explain to viewers what was happening, what we know, and all of that. So we didn't give her a set time to report on breaking news. And honestly, I don't think you should. Back where I'm from, people love that stuff. So you never want to, your reporter can't go like 3 or 4 minutes long, but give them at least 2 minutes to explain what's happening, show video. Here,
we're live at the scene of what appears to be a fireworks plant.
Here it's happening now, which is extremely important. You can still see smoke coming from that warehouse, completely demolished. Firefighters are still on scene.
They told a neighbor, rather, that one person was killed. Again, we have not confirmed that. We did see somebody life-flighted out of here.
Which one person was not killed. Never say that without confirming it. This reporter basically broke a journalism sin by saying, oh, a witness said somebody was killed. Never attribute witnesses when it comes to death or injuries. You can attribute them to saying, oh, witnesses saw this big black plume of smoke rising from the sky, but official information like that, you never want to report off the record, because somebody, if my mom or my brother was working at this warehouse and the reporter said, oh, a witness said somebody was killed, like, I'd be pissed. Who wouldn't be? Like, you never want to, say that without confirmation. It's huge. And that's one thing you guys will learn too. Like I made the mistake of, running things based like on scanner traffic. 5 cars involved in a crash when it turned out to be like 1 or 2. Because police are, when they speak over scanner, they're reporting what people calling 911 are saying. And you can never trust those people. You can never trust the public with that information. So always get confirmation. That's huge, 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 huge. People will lose your trust in you if you report inaccurate facts. Yeah.
That came from police. Like previous police.
Yeah, I mean, but they haven't arrived on scene yet. It's somebody calling 911 saying, hey, there are 5 cars involved in a wreck. Once they get on scene, it's like, oh, it's only 2. So that's why we never report scanner traffic, because we like police to be on scene before, to see things for themselves. So again, it's just kind of like, reporting what witnesses say over the scanner traffic. So, you guys have any questions about that? All right. It keeps wanting to go back to that slide. Okay, now this is kind of an interesting and funny example of letting your newscast breathe as well. This video that I'm about to show you went viral. It was on the Late Night with James Corbin, I believe, on CBS. I don't watch CBS that much, no offense to anybody who likes CBS, but it was on that late night show. And this producer, it wasn't my show, it was another producer, but she gave the anchor time to breathe on this, and it went viral.
Police officers in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, were asking people to be on the lookout for a man who robbed a store. And I think we do have his description. Can we take that? Let's take his description. Okay, this is the guy they wanted people in Pennsylvania to be out on the lookout for. He's got a nose and some hair that goes like that.
This is a legit police sketch too. It's not made up,
Time of this
which is even funnier.
particular crime. It's got kind of a chin that comes down to almost a point. Stands about 5 feet 4 inches tall. There it is. Take a good look for yourself. Oh, and now I'm getting word that police actually caught this guy, thanks to the sketch, no doubt. So here's a picture of the real guy next to the sketch. His arrest. It's uncanny, Lisa. The guy on the left is now charged with 2 counts of theft. Is being held in the Lancaster jail. And I say give that sketch artist a raise.
This wouldn't be so funny, except it's a real sketch.
That was actually the sketch that the police sent out to the good folks in Lancaster. And, hey, to their credit,
They got it.
they came through. Minus the hat.
And then the bread lady, who I'm sure you've seen, pops up after that. Anyway, so that's another example of why you want to let your newscast breathe, because people like that crap. They like to laugh. You don't want to show them all hard news all the time. And as a result, this producer did a great job in giving her anchors more time in order to do something like that and talk. So, yeah. It was our 9 o'clock show, which is an hour-long show. So the time stamp.
Now this just in, police
It would have been in our D block, 9:28. So way down in the show, So and it's a challenge too with an hour-long show. You have to keep your viewers interested throughout, for an hour. I produce 2 30-minute segments. I only have to keep my viewers entertained for 30 minutes. An hour-long producer who produces an hour-long show, they have to keep their producer or their audience entertained for an hour straight. So you really have to think strategically on how you are going to play stories for this reason. People did not expect this at 9:28 p.m., but they got it. And this is what what keeps people tuning in and viewing your newscast. So Oh, yeah.
Say like not that but like
In the 9 o'clock show, yes, because it's a CW. So on NBC and my show, that would never fly. The 6 and 10. So no. But in the lighter segments, if you have like an hour of news to kill or an hour worth of content to put in, then that's fine. But in the 6 or 10 o'clock newscast, I rarely have things like that because it's so condensed and you have to fit in all of your news, including national news of the day too. So yeah. Yeah, oh yeah, it was great. Okay. Last topic is enhancing your newscast by using technology. This is really important now because in this day of age, we have technology everywhere. Cell phones, smartphones, iPads, computers, everything. So when people are watching your newscast, keep in mind that people have other means of communication in their hand or nearby when they're watching your newscast. So they may be playing on their phones, they may have their iPad, they may be, whatever it may be, they always have something in their hand. When you guys watch the news or watch TV, you always have your phone nearby. So you want to always tease your apps. That's why news stations do it so regularly, is because they want to drive their viewers to download their app so we can get more web pages, or web views, which in turn generates more revenue. And that's what news stations are all about. If you guys haven't noticed yet, or if you don't know, news stations it's a business. They care about money. And although the content and quality is very important to us, the reason it is because we want more viewers so we can charge advertisers more for their advertising. So it all basically centers around money. And you'll know that whenever you go in the professional world. So yeah, you always want to tease your apps, your website, so you get more hits. And again, let your anchors be your show and tell. They're the foundation of your newscast. So whether you have a touch screen or a social media center to showcase comments or photos from your viewers, that's fantastic because it allows people to become engaged and get involved in your newscast. Something that KSDK in St. Louis does, the NBC station, which I really like, is they will send out a push alert around 10:15 p.m. every night, and they will push out a poll saying, hey, in 10 minutes, what do you want to see coming up in our newscast in the kicker block? You can choose between this story, or this story. And they're pre-produced, so all the producer has to do is, pull that story in or kill the other stories. And that's very interactive, and people will tune in to see the story that was chosen. So anything you can do that is interactive, don't be afraid. Try new things. That's really important. My boss is big on that. I assume other news directors are too. Try things out of the ordinary. Don't stick to your script. Don't stick to your standard, your standard rundown. Change things up. And a lot of producers tend to go by script, go by the rundown. They don't like changing things up, but change things up. It makes things more interesting. So I do have an example of this, by the way, just to show another reason why you want to use technology is to show your viewers where things are. So, for instance, Ethan did a really great job at this one. He showcased where a big sinkhole was and where the neighborhood is, that the proposed neighborhood is in one town close to us.
Wants to add multi-family homes to a proposed new subdivision in Nixa faced a skeptical crowd tonight at a neighborhood meeting. The development known as Oakhurst sits on a piece of land just south of St. Francis of Assisi Church and a little bit west of 160 in Nixa and south of Highway 14. Highway 14 that way goes to Ozark.
So he's using reference points. A big thing that our consultant said, again, I'm telling you guys everything pretty much our consultant said about our newscast, so you guys can prevent doing it in yours, is we would always give the exact addresses, 2200 block of South Main Street. Nobody knows where that is. You have to give reference points. What's the next biggest intersection? What is like Ethan used a church. Well, okay, people in Nixa know where this church is. Use that as a reference point so people know where things are. Because if you say 2000 block of whatever street, some people may not know where that is. Like, okay, where is that? So always give reference points when you're referring to a location. So, especially in a big market like this, not everybody knows where every street is. So, it's a good source. The maps are great, and be interactive with them. Like this map right here would, if you took it full and had no anchor interaction, it would mean nothing to me. It would mean nothing to your viewers. And a lot of stations do that. They pull up a map. It's like, okay, this is zoomed in. Like, we took it full. Okay, we don't know where this is. This is boring TV. So I personally, in my opinion, would rather have an offset, an OTS, or a close-up with flip bars, because you want to see your anchor. You don't want to see a boring map. That's another thing our consultant said too, was we got in the habit of showing maps all the time when we couldn't go to breaking news stories. And he was like, what are you doing? This is horrible TV. Because what does a map do for you? I would much rather see an anchor with an OTS graphic with little bullet points, you know, opposed to a map. So again, that's just me. Other producers may have varying opinions, which, you know, is okay. Nothing's wrong about it. But, you know, we're all in the business to, you know, tell people what's happening, report the news, report the facts. And, you know, that's the main goal. So as long as you're doing that, you're doing a good job. But you have to kind of think outside the box to showcase your material. So, here's another one I'm going to show real quick.
We've been telling you about trichloroethylene known as TCE. This afternoon, Representative Sonia Anderson announced the Missouri Department of Natural Resources is now.
So, give you a background on this story real quick. We have a TCE issue, which is a chemical that is hazardous to people, found in well water near a cave. And so this was an update to a story that we've done many, many reports on. This is just a VO update. But I want to show you guys what you can do if you just have a VO update, but you've done many stories in the past. You want to showcase and let people know where they can find those other stories. So.
Email update notification so homeowners and business owners in that area can stay up to date with what's happening at the old Lytton site. We have a link to sign up for those notifications on our website. Tonight, the City of Springfield Council voted and approved waiving a fee of a few dollars, making it free for victims of sexual assault or domestic violence to get their incident reports. Taylor Frost joins us with that story. Taylor?
Yeah, Lisa, I talked with a Springfield woman earlier today. She came up with this idea. She says her goal is to remove any barriers for victims so they feel comfortable reporting these crimes. Meaningful.
Okay. So I showed the website where people can get that link, and then under that story too, you can't see it, but we have related links and related stories that people can click on if they want to find more information about the story. Another thing that I like to do as well is, this is Taylor again. She's one of our star reporters. I have her at the RPA, which is called our Reporter Performance Area, with a graphic behind her for the intro.
They feel comfortable reporting these crimes.
And then at the end, I have her sitting with our anchor. But what's unique about this is we've never done that before, but out of the package, the anchor asks the reporter a question, and the reporter answers. So I want to show you that real quick.
For victims of crime.
I think we're all glad for those victims of sexual assault or domestic violence. What about other police reports, though? Will people still have to pay for those?
Those fees still remain in place, but if you are a victim of domestic violence, sexual assault, those fees will be waived.
Okay. Taylor Frost tonight. Thanks, Taylor.
So we always got in the habit of having, or I could put her back at the RPA with that monitor behind her, having her tag with that same information. But it's the way we presented it to make it different, and get the anchor involved. And as much as you can get the anchor involved, the better. Because as I said, they are the backbone, or they are the face of your newscast, and people like to see them. So if you can put both of them together, even better. Even in split boxes too. You see it on NBC Nightly News all the time, where Lester they'll come out to a split box. Lester will ask Miguel Almaguer a question, and then they'll stay on that split screen, and they'll talk back and forth. So, any questions about that? It does too, yeah. Mm-hmm. It really does. And at that time, we had one anchor because our other anchor was out because of the flu for about a week. So you have to put, even with our meteorologist, like I put Ron Hurst, our main meteorologist, with Lisa, because there needs to be interaction of some sort. So we do that a lot. We try to find ways we can do that. So. Okay, now a big question for you guys is, how do I get a job? Obviously, as you know, networking is crucial. Have to have a LinkedIn account. You guys are building your profiles if you're in the capstone course, or will be at some point. LinkedIn is an extremely valuable tool to use. I'll just show you mine real quick. Yeah, LinkedIn is important, and I've gotten several not job offers, but messages from recruiters, messages from news directors directly in bigger markets, on LinkedIn. Because let's face it, everybody needs producers. People don't necessarily want to be producers because you are essentially a manager. You are in charge of the show. And some people find that too difficult, or they don't have any interest in doing so. And that, as end result, it's hard to find good quality producers. And so people are always looking on LinkedIn, always reaching out to other station managers, seeing if they know of anybody, things like that. So the more you can help them find you, the better off you're going to be. So LinkedIn, here I just recently added this bottom line because it makes you stand out even more. So award-winning, nominated producer, and then kind of give a bio of what you're all about, where you graduated from, what you did, what you like to do. It's not like a dating, site where you say, oh, I like to go kayaking, I love the outdoors. You put your professional interests, and like, I have, I do social media. I'm well versed in social media, well versed in, writing, and can think of different ways. Think outside the box. Very creative. That could be another, addition to this bio here. And then your experience. You don't want it to be too long. Just quick little bullet points. And I'll show you my resume real quick as well, just so you guys have an idea of what yours should look like. And again, with resumes, they can be different, but this is a general layout of how one should look. Cover letter. So again, this can look a million different ways, but this is a layout I really liked because you want your name to stand out big. So that's why my name is the biggest thing on my resume. And then your little bio line or little headline of, why people should hire you. Keep that pretty short. And then your experience, lay all that out. At most, I would use 3 bullet points. At least that's what I have heard. No more than 3, and just keep it short, kind of like scripting. Eliminate words that you don't need to keep it short, because nobody wants to read through a 1 million page resume. So same thing with your skills. And then if you have an awards section or volunteer section or community service section, you can put that in there too. But as you see, like, mine's very simple, very short, and yours should be too. Don't feed, all this, BS. Get straight to the point. What you are, what you did, what your skills are, and all of that. Just keep it short and simple. So, yeah. I took my classes online, which was really great. So, I don't even know. I just applied and got a call from CNBC, interviewed, and then that led me to the Today Show, and stayed there for about 3 or 4 months. Came back, didn't like the big city lifestyle. So, and to be honest, New Orleans is almost too much for me too, which says a lot. So, going on Bourbon Street last night, I'm like, just get me out of here after an hour or 2. So, it's a great city. I love it. But that many people in one spot, it just, I grew up on a farm, so it's like, not, I got to try it out, exactly. So, which was really cool, because just to say I had that experience. And again, if you guys want to intern anywhere, like, you can certainly do it. Just, even if it means taking off a semester from school, it's totally worth it, especially if you want to go to like LA, New York, Houston, because that NBC station is really good too. So, yeah. Really, that's about it. Do you guys have any questions or anything you would like me to? Yeah.
Do you use social media during the shows happening? Like, some TV program, they create hashtag for the they use.
Not really. Most of our viewers don't have Twitter. It's a very different market than most places, so we don't even use or mention Twitter at all, really. I mean, our station has a Twitter account and Twitter handle, but we never use it. So, but yeah, Facebook we use all the time. We're like, hey, go to our Facebook page. We put a link, up for this story on our Facebook page. So, but yeah, and that's what's unique. If you guys end up going to a small town to produce, it may not be like that either. It may be the same way. It may be, oh, nobody here uses Twitter. You may have the very basics, and you're lucky to have the basics, especially if you go to a smaller market like Market 200, which we have one of those in Missouri. And I know somebody who worked there, and she hated it. But it really got her to where she is now in Columbus, Ohio, after 5 years. So it may suck to have to start at a smaller market. Take every opportunity you can, because those opportunities may not come around again. So apply for as many different stations or jobs in general if you don't, by some chance don't want to work in news. Apply for anything and everything and take what you can get, especially in news. Hoda, who used to work here in New Orleans, she, had to drive around in her car, like different states, begging people to hire her. And by God, she did it, and got a job in Meridian, Mississippi, which is like, I don't know, market 200 plus. And back then it was probably even smaller. So, and she did it, and now look where she is. Like, you can't, and I'm going to say this because I thought the same thing when I graduated, don't expect that you are going to be your best whenever you first start. college is a stepping stone. You will not learn, and I say this coming as a, from a accredited university. I didn't learn crap in college based on what I know now. I learned everything on the job. So college here is going to get you the basics, what you need to know in order to get that first job, but you won't learn anything. I shouldn't say anything. You won't learn the, all the little aspects of it until you actually do it. So it's pretty much on the job training, and we do that too. Like, we hire people from college, right out of college, as producers, and we have to train them extensively because, luckily you have a great setup here, but some colleges don't, and we have to train people from the beginning. And it's a career that you absolutely have to learn on the job. Master's degrees, whatever, are great and all, but they're not going to get you the experience you need to be a journalist. So the more times you can be out in the streets and out in the field, then that's when you're going to learn all of it. So, but I'm not dissing college by any means, because this is, it's great. It teaches you writing skills, AP style. It teaches you the foundation and the basics. But once you get to the bigger stations, you aren't going to really hone your knowledge until you get to those bigger markets and stations. So, like, I've been producing for 3.5 years, and I don't know anything. I don't know everything, and I'm never going to know everything. This is a evolving, career path. Things are going to change. In 10 years, who knows? TV may not even be a thing. We may be streaming newscasts like you guys do online, opposed to actually sitting in front of a TV on, like on networks. So there will always be a need for producers, always be a need for journalism, but nobody knows where and what direction it's going in terms of all digital, still have the TV in front of you in your living room. We don't know, but any other questions? Of course. Thank you, guys. And again, if